Hello, and welcome back to the School of Wizardry. My name's Craze, and I wanted to talk to you all a little bit more on some potential advice and tips that I can give that would help the would-be wizard in this dangerous world that is Noita. In the last few videos, I did go over a few bits and baubles of good things to keep note of, but there were a plethora of things that I wanted to discuss that never came up in those videos, or were potential spoilers. In this one, I will go over some of those that I wish I would have talked about to help everyone, especially newer players, get the leg up on this world and help them out a little bit more. There will be spoilers in this video, as some of these words of advice do lead to some secrets, so do take this as your warning if you wish to remain spoiler free. With that being said, let's go ahead and begin with the first little bit of help, which starts right here at the beginning of a fresh run. From your initial starting spot, if your explosive wand that you started with has an easy way of effective digging, such as TNT or magic missile, you can make a pocket ledge right in the rock above you. Fly into here and then fly up around to the top of the side of the cliff. Continue forward and go up to the top of a snowy mountain. At the top, you will hear a humming noise. If you float upwards, you will eventually see a pedestal in the sky, with an orb under it. Dig this orb out and it'll fall down and collect it. If this is your first time collecting this orb, it will unlock a new spell for you to use and will start to spawn in future runs. Otherwise, it will give you an additional 25 max HP. This is true for all orbs that you collect and is something to keep note of going forward. Speaking of orbs, let's go ahead and go grab another one. From the mountain, if you go far right, you will eventually reach a desert biome. Going farther into the desert biome, you will eventually run into a pyramid. Atop this pyramid is, once again, an orb that contains a new spell for first time collection or an additional 25 max HP, giving you a starting 150 max HP for any starting run. Very nice. This orb is very far out of the way, however, and honestly, coming here at the very start of run, I would not honestly recommend unless you find a teleport bolt in the first area or you start with an acceleradium potion, as the trip to and from here can take a very long time. But you do you. While we're here, let's go ahead and talk about tablets. Both orbs that we just recovered had a tablet with them. These tablets have a good bit of information and knowledge on the world and can lead to some hints and secrets about what is laying out there. But reading is for suckers, and all we care about is their immediate use. This is a lethal physics object that can brutally destroy our enemies. I mentioned this a bit in the last video I did, but tablets are a physical object that can be tossed and kicked around. Because of this, it does physics damage and is exceptionally strong when used and can lead to what is called a trick kill, which causes enemies who die in this manner to drop double the amount of money they otherwise would. Another trick for the tablet to really make it deadly is to input a kick command, then follow it near immediately with a throw of the tablet. You will kick it, sending it off to Narnia for even more damage, range, and speed. This is a useful little bit of tech, though the timing does take some practice and you might need to sit around for a little bit to really get the timing for it. There are also quite a few other bits of tablet tech that you can use that I can cover in a future video if there is an interest in it. But the last thing I will show you with them, if you take the tablets to the altar where we grab the first orb and toss them in, they can be converted to 100 quick gold. Good for some quick early cash early on, though be careful because not all tablets are built the same. Moving right along, let's talk about some enemies that you might run into that will give you some trouble for newer players. Starting here in the first stage, you may run into a gentleman by this guy. We call him the Fire Mage. For the first stage enemy, he can be fairly tanky and very dangerous as he hurls fireballs at you that will do a lot of damage in an AoE, set you on fire, and overall is just not a very good friend to be around, all things considered, and just seems really, really angry. So why don't we help him cool off a bit with some good old-fashioned water. If you find one of these guys, pouring water on them or having them stand in a pool of water will cause them a lot of damage and having them questioning their school of magic. Personally, I'm more fond of illusions than destruction. This will also count as a trick kill and will yield to a large sum of money, and should you be able to find and manage to do this. Another enemy that can often cause issues are the sentries in the third and fourth stage. Similar to the Fire Mage, these guys are very tanky for when you can encounter them and usually can cause a snowball effect of issues. Get it? Snowball effect? Find them in this snowy place? Oh, brother, this guy stinks! Anyway, The obvious answer to these guys, and most mechanical enemy-based enemies, is electricity, as they all have a very strong weakness to it. But electricity is dangerous, and unless you're Emperor Palpatine, you will likely become the next Tesla coil if you mess with it. So why not something not so dangerous? Concentrated mana is a magical liquid that you can sometimes find in stages in Flask, and is basically acid to anything metal related, both the terrain and enemies, and can quickly deal with anything of these pesky things should you find a chance to cover them in it. Since we're here in the 3rd stage now, let's go and collect 2 more orbs. If you go all the way to the far right of the 3rd stage, you will reach a large chasm. I showed this off in the previous video, but didn't explore it. If you climb the rock wall on the left side of it, you will eventually hear another humming noise of an orb. You will need a black hole or luminous drill to get this one, but you can dig through the rock wall to grab a new spell for your first time collection, or an additional 25 HP for continued collection in future runs. If you continue to climb up, you will eventually reach a wooden bridge. If you head right, you will enter a room that looks like a temple. Within this temple is an orb and a tablet. However, be wary of grabbing this orb, as simply walking back after grabbing this will trigger a boss that we call Squidward. And no, it is not the handsome one. There is a reason why he spawns after grabbing the orb, but I will do a separate short video explaining it. But for now, let's just focus on this orb specifically. If you have black holes, luminous drill, or even an acid ball, so long as you have a way to make this orb drop from its pedestal, you can safely pick it up and return back to where Squidward would normally spawn, and he will not spawn. If you go back across the bridge to the left, you will run into a large lake of lava. This is the same lava lake from the 1st stage, and this is a way to return back to the surface from the 3rd stage. A good thing to know for longer runs, or purely if you want to explore something on the surface at a later date. I don't know how long this video will be as I am writing this script, so let's do a couple more rapid fire tips and then a little bit of alchemy. If you find a golden orb in any of your stages, most notably in your 1st or 2nd stages, take it with you to the Holy Mountain. Once there, douse yourself in water, blood, or something that can prevent you from getting set on fire, and make sure you have exactly 25 HP or more. Any less and you will need to heal or hold off. Now, toss the orb down and kick it until it explodes. Each kick will yield some extra cast, and it will explode eventually, causing exactly 24 points of damage, hence why we went in 25 or more. It will also set you on fire if you don't have something to prevent it, which is why we soaked up in water, or if you just have something like ambrosia and just soak in that, you'll be fine regardless of your HP count. Next up is the Healing Bolt spell, a fairly rare spell to find, but invaluable if found. It can be used to heal yourself if you have ways to manage it. There are a multitude of ways to do this, but the quick and always usable one is while inside of a holy mountain with the healing bolt on your wand. If you dive into one of the pools of water, shoot the bolt upward and then fly into it, you can heal yourself. This is not the fastest method, but it does get the job done and can let you go a little bit longer before having to pick up that HP in the mountains. If you manage to find a piercing modifier, also extremely rare, add it to the healing bolt and do this method. Because piercing will make it heal every frame it is actively touching your sweet, flammable, brittle flesh, you will get a lot of healing. Very, very useful. And now we come to what is arguably the most important tip ever in this game. The one that separates the boys from the men and the men from the gods. If you manage to find a pouch of anything in any of the zones, dump it out completely and then head to the second mainline stage, the mines. Head far left to the fungal caverns and pick up some weird fungus in the bag. You don't need a lot, but anything will help out, and the more you have, the better. Now with some fungus, head to any large vertical open area, most notably say the exit of a holy mountain for example, and fly upwards while spilling out the content going straight up. This may take a while, but you will eventually make more fungus than you started with. Pick it up and repeat this process. This will now create an infinite loop of fungus and will let you have the craziest level of high that you have ever experienced, and never again will you have to worry about the woes of the world. Oh, and if you eat more than 3 minutes worth of high, you will trigger a fungal shift, which could possibly turn your own blood into acid. Have fun. Okay, let's actually round this off with some pretty nice to know alchemy combos. I've already mentioned in previous videos, but water poured into toxic sludge will dilute it and turn it into water, good for keeping up a stock. If you have some concentrated mana on you and you need more, pour even a small amount into some water and you will convert all of the water into more concentrated mana. Very useful when mixed with the water trail spell for unlimited water or mana, and especially useful versus mechanical enemies. If you have unstable teleportanium, whether it is a pool of it or in a flask, if you mix it with slime, it will stabilize it and become regular teleportanium. Very useful for many little tricks. If you happen to run into both acceleratium and levitanium, you can mix these two together to create hastium, which provides both effects at once. In contrast, if you run into either of these effects with slime nearby, be mindful as mixing these two will create active gunpowder. This does also include blood that you bleed from the slime blood perk if you pick it up. In addition to all of these alchemic effects, if you are playing on the beta branch of Noita currently, you can actively mix all of these effects within a flask. So if you have, as an example, a flask of unstable teleportanium, pour some out and fill the empty space with slime and mix it together in the flask. The end result will be a teleportanium flask by the end of it. There are a multitude of other alchemic effects, but I feel these set are the easiest and most reliable to use on a day-to-day run-to-run basis on Noita. As one final tip, with a flask of pheromone, if you go to the Holy Mountain, you can pour out a small pool of it and toss in empty wands into the pool. They will sell for a decent chunk of money, good for some extra cash if you need to buy a wand or tool, which those wands can also be sold. Stunks. This selling of wands is also currently a beta branch only feature, so do bear this in mind. And with that, that is all of the immediate and useful tips that I can give to any new or currently playing player. There is so much to learn and do in this game that I'm sure I could have continued on with even more advice and tips of knowledge, but I got a feeling that this video is already probably cutting it very close to a decently length video, given the length of the script as I'm writing it. If you are a more experienced player, put your own set of quick advice down in the comments below and help spread some information to help players out, both new and veterans alike. You may learn a thing or two yourself. I certainly did. With that being said and done, I want to thank you all very much for taking the time to watch this video. I will be starting up shortly more in-depth videos on the game's mechanics and systems going forward. And the next video will be covering the very basics of understanding wands and how the jumbles of letters and words and numbers on each of them work and how they interact with each other. With that being said, thank you all very much for coming. Take care of yourselves, drink water, hug your loved ones, and I'll see you guys next time. Happy noiting.